When I think of two of the biggest changes to some of my favorite fandoms in the past couple of years, I can't think of anything more divisive than Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice and Star Wars Last Jedi.
I'm the Doctor.
Oh, okay, that's different, and I've already talked about that. And to be fair, it's not over yet. For me, I have different opinions on both. I found Dawn of Justice to be an excellent, if not flawed, movie, and well,
Am I the only one who understands the complexities of this ambitious cinematic masterpiece? This movie isn't stupid! You're stupid!
where I think Last Jedi is if you've never been in either position, out of those positions about a film, then are you even a fan of like anything? Like those two extremes should hit you at some point. Just saying. Now, some people seem to think Dawn of Justice and even Snyder's plan for the DC cinematic universe was and is similar to the dismal handling of the Star Wars, to which I very much disagree with. While I can agree that Snyder's plan was flawed in places here and there, and that maybe Snyder shouldn't have been chosen to direct when Warner Bros. Very much just wanted to quickly match the MCU, and Snyder just isn't that kind of person for that. With Star Wars, the problem is definitely making a trilogy without any real plan, and there is, at least for me, there is a lack of substance to this story, where it feels like even with the expanded material, it feels like the series knows what Star Wars looks like, but not what it is. In a lot of ways, it is the Emperor and Rise of Skywalker, a dried husk being propped up for entertainment purposes. And yes, I know Palpatine returning was in the EU, but not only have I yet to meet anyone who generally likes Dark Empire in its entirety, but it's more frustrating that the entire sequel trilogy keeps taking from the expanded universe, taking from stories that have been no longer deemed canon by Disney. Anyway, to me, what makes Batman v Superman better than Last Jedi is Bruce Wayne and Luke Skywalker, who I think are the most polarizing characters of those respective films. Like, somewhere amongst all of it, I've always heard the same thing. Last Jedi ruined Luke's character. No, it expanded Luke's character. Well, no, Bruce Wayne should never do what he does here. Clearly, Snyder doesn't understand the character. And I think there are some arguments that make that merit, but for me, Bruce Wayne is the better character here, so let's sort of get into that. So let's start with Luke Skywalker and Last Jedi. For me, Luke is one of the great heroes in fiction, and seeing him go from
I am a Jedi, like my father before me,
to
Time for the Jedi to end.
It's just sort of painful. It's just sort of Yeah. Anyway, Last Jedi shows Luke Skywalker beaten down by life and his failings, resolving to hide at the end of the galaxy as the Jedi die with him. And honestly, I don't hate that idea. I'm not against the idea of a broken hero, but the problem is the movie isn't selling it, because in addition to telling at least 3 other stories, the one with Luke is just sort of poorly done, despite Hamill's acting, which is top tier. Like, Hamill's acting is great in this movie. The problem with Luke's character here is the reason combined with his actions. So Luke senses darkness in his nephew, and as he says, Snoke had already gotten to him. And when he looked into him with the Force, he sensed something so great that for a moment he contemplated killing his nephew, or as he says,
He would bring destruction and pain and death at the end of everything I love because of what he will become. And for the briefest moment of pure instinct, I thought I could stop it.
and that leads to men attacking him, destroying Luke's school, killing his students, and joining/taking over the Knights of Ren and serving Supreme Leader Snoke. Luke decides to go into hiding and has adopted the idea that the Jedi are to blame for everything, which has very little, if anything, to do with what he himself did. The biggest problem is that this all implies an interesting story about Luke that never gets told. I can believe that Luke made a mistake. And there have been stories about him having made errors in judgment in the EU that resulted in the death of others. Luke has hit rock bottom before, but none of this here works. Nothing about Luke makes sense here, and there is such a huge 30-plus year gap between
I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
Time for the Jedi to end.
and knowing that Snoke is out there, that his nephew is doing untold evil across the galaxy, and it's his fault. For him to just hide away and blame the Jedi just doesn't work, as Rey effectively berates him, just for Yoda to go, yeah, we all mess up, get over it, with no real sense of arc or character. He's sort of not in the story, and even his ending scene with Kylo Ren looks awesome, but doesn't quite hit right because he feels so underdone as a character. Again, as I mentioned before when I talked about The Last Jedi, had there been more of an interaction between Luke and Snoke, like maybe Snoke was the student that he thought he could save but couldn't, and that led to the loss of someone else. So now Luke has this huge burden on him. But that's not there. As we know, Snoke is just like a puppet made by Sidious for reasons. Whatever. This is why Luke is just a bad character here. We just sort of see Luke just sort of there for the most part. Like, nothing that has brought him to this point seems to come to his mind. I mean, think about it. A bunch of his students died. You know, he's betrayed his nephew's trust. And he doesn't really spend any time contemplating it. It's just him walking, seeing Rey, then walks. There's no story. Like, imagine, and we're going to go back to this again, imagine if, let's say, the whole time, like the moment Rey arrives and Luke sort of opens himself up back up to the Force, he can still hear it. He can still hear his students dying that he couldn't save. And he sees like the Force ghosts of Obi-Wan, of Yoda, and even Vader / his dad. Just sees them trying to get him to come back to the fight. And at the end, it's Anakin that says, yeah, I know. Like, the story never feels that it's about Luke so much as taking Luke off the board. Sort of the same thing with Han Solo in The Force Awakens. Like, you know, he has one moment with Leia that really sort of shape his relationship with Star Wars at the time, and then he's killed off. It sort of speaks to the lack of planning this sequel trilogy has in spades. And it's a real shame because this could have been great. We could have made a final great send-off for Luke's character, but it's not really important. Like, it's sort of Rian Johnson, like, you know, we have to subvert expectations and be different. But the problem is different does not equal good. It just doesn't. Next is Bruce Wayne / Batman and Dawn of Justice. So similar to Skywalker, I think Batman is one of the greatest heroes in fiction, and Bruce Wayne is the best choice to don the cowl, honestly. And with the next one being Dick Grayson, and who knows after that, I really don't care. Maybe Tim. Unlike Luke, there are many different interpretations of Batman and Bruce in film and comics, and the film usually draws on something from the comics, with Nolan's Batman Begins and Dark Knight Rises drawing off of Long Halloween and Nightfall, respectively, for the most part. Affleck's character is pretty much fully pulled from Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns, featuring an older and more gritty Bruce Wayne. This works a bit better because Affleck isn't chronologically falling off of anything else established. He is, however, one of many actors to have played the role, and from an acting standpoint, I think he does a great job. He actually does what I feel is the best version of Bruce and Batman, where most actors usually get one or the other right. The issue with the story that I've heard in regards to his character is that Batman doesn't kill, which he does in this movie quite a bit. He kills quite a bit and plans to kill Superman, seeing him as a major threat. To be fair and to be clear, I don't like that Batman kills, and in a lot of ways it can be viewed as something similar to Luke contemplating killing his nephew, but there's a big difference here, and that is how we frame Bruce's character. Bruce is someone who has been fighting a war on crime for 20 years, and with the loss of Robin, apparently the jury is out whether or not that was Dick or Jason. Canon-wise, I would say it's Jason, but like someone said it was Dick, and it was just weird. And with the aftermath of the battle with Superman and Zod, where a lot of Wayne Enterprise employees died, it does make sense that he would go off on a bit of edge. He would be in a bit of a dark place here. And as Alfred says,
it starts. The fever, the rage, the feeling of powerlessness that turns good men cruel.
This isn't just told to us, but it is shown not just in how much more violent he's getting, but the reasons for it, as well as his refusal to admit that he is killing people or being indifferent to criminals possibly getting hurt / killed, and the crossfire to finally resolving to destroy Superman. Everything in the movie plays to that. We know he's lost Robin, we know he's lost people in Metropolis, and we know he doesn't trust Superman, who has just come up to him and told him,
"The bat is dead."
So all of that comes in here, and we know that Lex had been playing around with that. Lex had pushed him to it. Oddly enough, we could have also said Snoke was doing the same thing to Luke, but whatever, we didn't. So there's a story to Bruce that isn't there for Luke. And so every decision Luke makes doesn't quite feel right. Why he's there doesn't quite feel right, because then in play with his actions and the overall story still doesn't work. He gives lazy examples as to why the Jedi need to end, which Rey quickly refutes. with Bruce, in addition to everything else, Robin, the events of Metropolis, so jaded. He's so cynical at this point, like as he tells Alfred.
20 years in Gotham, Alfred. We've seen what promises are worth. How many good guys are left? How many stayed that way?
He's not going to wait for the worst thing to happen. He's not going to wait for this creature he doesn't trust to finally decide, like, oh well, guess I'll just go, because in his mind, anyone can be corrupted, anyone can go down that horrible path, and the cons outweigh the pros of Superman in his mind, and that's what leads to this story. So what I'm saying is that what makes these two characters better and worse than the other, what makes Batman the better character, is that there's a better story for Bruce, and there's a weaker story for Luke. Luke is just he's sort of treated like a footnote in this story. Whereas Batman v Superman is about Batman v Superman. Even though the fight doesn't quite matter, it's not the fight that matters. It's everything building up to it. It's the emotions that play to that fight. Everyone's mindset, it all works within the story. You don't have to like Snyder's work, I think, to really just sort of accept that point. All right? Yeah, the Martha scene isn't perfect. I kind of roll my eyes a bit sometimes too, but I get what's happening. I get the fall of Batman, or the fall of Bruce, and the idea of Bruce getting back to being Batman, better than I get the fall of Luke to Luke not being the Last Jedi, even though the movie's called Last Jedi, and then he's been so removed from the story, like, it doesn't even really help Ray train. Ray just knows stuff. She's just really strong. There's no attempt to help guide her with that. So yeah, that's just how I feel on it. What did you guys think? Agree? Disagree? Let me know in the comment section. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Leave your thoughts in the comment section. I'll catch you all later. This is the Bucket Think Tank signing off. Thanks for watching. As always, fans, may your fandom serve you well.